Hey everybody, I'm Aaron with Toy Tractor Parts, and today we're going to be doing a PTO seal on this little Yanmar 1510. Now Yanmar uses the same PTO style on lots of different models, so even if you don't have a YM 1510, this video should still be of some help. The first thing you're going to want to do is make sure you have all of the parts you need to do the job. So head on over to our website, hoytractor.com, click on Parts, your tractor model number, and then the category of the part that you need. Most orders ship the same day, and we always have free tech support. I went ahead and removed the PTO shield, and now we can get started. The first thing we're going to need to do is drain out the hydraulic oil. There's usually 1 or 2 drain plugs in the bottom of the rear axle housing. And just in case you're wondering, no, the hydraulic oil should not look like this. This tractor is way overdue for some maintenance. While the oil is still draining and the drain pan is still in place, I'm going to take a few minutes to clean off the back of this cover. Now, depending on what tractor model number you have and whether or not you're going to replace the wear collar, you may be able to get to the PTO seal from the outside and skip most of these steps. We know our wear collar is bad, so we're going to have to go all the way. Now we'll just remove all of the perimeter bolts that hold the cover on. I usually start with a hammer and tap around the outside edges. This will give me room to get a pry bar in there and start to pry gently. The key with the pry bar is not to pry too hard. You can easily break this housing, and these things are expensive. Just take your time and go slow. You might also have to push the PTO shifter forward or backwards as you're pulling it out. And be careful not to damage the gasket surfaces. When it does come out, it'll be heavy and it'll be awkward, so be careful. So this is what we've been looking for, the PTO assembly, and now it's time to disassemble it. So here's the parts that we're going to be using. I went ahead and ordered a couple gaskets, a PTO seal, as well as a PTO wear collar. To get started taking apart the assembly, we need to remove the nuts that hold the two halves together. I actually ended up doing a little more work than I needed to. I don't need to remove the inner nuts and the outer nuts, but I didn't know which one was going to come off the easiest, so I just did both. It turns out I could have just left the inner nuts alone, but you just never know. The next step is to get the gears off the PTO shaft so we can get to the seal wear collar. We'll put the PTO shaft in a vise, and then this model has a little spacer that we need to take off and keep. And then we can take off the gear. You can see why this PTO seal was leaking. This wear collar is pitted pretty badly. But it's a good thing the wear collar is there, because replacing a pitted wear collar is a lot cheaper than replacing a pitted PTO shaft. So now we just have to drive off the bearing and the seal wear collar. I didn't get a very good video of this, so you'll just have to use your imagination. Now we can drive the PTO seal carrier out of the PTO cover. And I just use a big socket. It works really well. Now, if all you wanted to do was replace the seal itself and not mess with the wear collar, this is the only piece you would really have to remove. You could leave this whole assembly bolted up. But 9 times out of 10, the wear collar needs replaced also, so this is why we're doing what we're doing. To get the seal out, just a regular flat screwdriver usually works really well. So now it's time to install the new seal, and pretty much every new seal will install with the cupped side facing towards the oil. And we'll install with a big socket. And now you're going to need to clean off both gasket surfaces and install a new gasket. You're going to need to get this area really clean or it's going to leak again. I'm just doing this for a video, so I'm not really spending much time here. I use the bolts to help me line up the holes because once you start pressing this together, you're not going to be able to turn it. And now we can torque down the bolts. If you don't have a press, just a regular bench vise will work really well to get the bearings and wear collar pressed on and pressed off. Now you'll need to clean up this gasket surface also. As you can see, I didn't do this, but again, it's just for a video. And now you can start installing all the components. You always want to be sure to use a rubber mallet or some kind of a dead blow hammer so that you don't damage the shafts or whatever it is that you're beating on. And this model has a snap ring that we need to install. And then a spacer that goes on between the bearing and the gear. And then the gear slides on. And then the next stack of gears goes on with the shift fork in place. And it all goes back together the way it came apart. And again, a metal hammer here would do some serious damage. And now we can install the other half of the assembly, making sure everything lines up. Then we can put the lock washers back on and tighten up the nuts. I use the electric impact to get the nuts snugged up, but I will go back through with a torque wrench and make sure everything is tight. Now you need to clean the gasket off the rear axle housing. Again, I'm just doing this for a video, so I'm not doing a very good job here, but you'll need to get this completely clean and use the new gasket. Also make sure none of the gasket pieces fall inside the transmission housing. We're going to flush all this out anyway because the oil was so nasty, so I'm not really too worried about it. Now we're ready to put the assembly back in the tractor, and there's a couple things we're going to have to watch out for. We need to align this little tab with the notch in the shifter fork. And then we also need to align the spline shaft with the spline coupler. It'll be a lot easier if you shift the PTO into gear so that the splines turn when you turn the PTO shaft. Now it is going to take a little wrestling to get everything in the right place at the right time, but it is doable. Just be sure the shifter tab is in the notch and keep turning the PTO shaft until everything splines up and it'll fall in place. And then you can put all your bolts back in and torque them down. And that's pretty much it. Put your drain plugs back in, fill the tractor up with oil, and you're ready to go. And always remember, if you have trouble or if you have any questions, don't hesitate to contact us.